Greetings. Welcome to our happy hour jam, happy hour time-ish. It usually varies. Today is Thoughtful Thursday, and this is Art4Truth. We are Art4Truth. We've been enjoying this, doing this concert series since the beginning, more or less, since March, and have come to you 6 days a week since then, and certainly grateful for the ability to share music and ideas and to be a part of this, a larger thing. So I thank everybody for that. Taking a break at the end of this week, but it's certainly been a good experience. So I guess without further ado, let's get into Thoughtful Thursday. We've done themes, daily themes. We've had Mellow Monday, Electric Tuesday, Wacky Wednesday, Thoughtful Thursday, Feel Free Friday, and the Saturday Pajama Jam. It actually sounds kind of cool when they say it all like that. Sundays, we took off. An infinite amount of things to think about and an infinite amount of ways in which to approach those thoughts, in theory. Perhaps in reality, maybe there's no difference between theory and reality when it comes to things like the infinite. So I'm going to talk a little bit about art. Surprise. But for this Thoughtful Thursday, I want you to think about art in your life and how the more that you can engage with art, the more it will help your body, mind, soul, and it will help to keep you away from the poisons that so many people delve into. One of the reasons, one of the things that I'm planning on doing is to work on cleansing myself of a number of the poisons that are almost impossible to be free from the stuff you eat, the stuff you see, the stuff you read. Unless you're conscious about it, the vast majority of what you will consume in any way, shape, or form, body, mind, and soul, is poison or tainted with poisons. Food one is easy. Literal chemical poisons are used in so many foods as both pesticide removers and preservatives, coloring agents, and so on. almost have to live on a farm and grow your own food to be completely free of our money-based diet. Most of the things that are presented in media are designed to pit us against each other, to look at particular ideals or visions rather than the combination of the global visions of individuals and the gravity of those particular visions. There are endless There is an endless barrage of these things. If you have a phone, you're subject to them. If you have a television, you're certainly subject to them. I'm not even talking about the waves themselves, the potential mind and soul control of the electronics themselves. But there's that. This is the result of how we as humans have built our societies, how we have at large allowed ourselves to be enslaved by the poisoners. As a larger organism kept in check the powers of greed that come from that. Now, I don't think that we can have a society where every single person does every single thing the same. I certainly don't want to make every single decision there is about distributing food to the world or all this kinds of stuff. Be responsible for a large entity that manages the distribution of food or clothing or the necessary things. And there will be people who will not want to or have the capacity to or the drive to make art, poetry, music constantly all the time and continue to work and evolve it, change it, live it as much as possible. So there, and all the other things in between. You see, I guess what I'm getting at with this is we have allowed ourselves to become poison, to poison the earth. This is not any political talk. This has nothing to do with left, right. This has nothing to do with a political party. This has nothing to do with our divisions, with who's in charge. Well, it has a lot to do with who's in charge, but not from a political perspective. You need to step back. We need to step back outside of what we are and look and be like, holy shit. Really? How did we let it get this way? Cry a little, perhaps. Maybe grieve, despair for a moment, but then buck up and say, well, we gotta fix this gosh darn thing. And figure out how each in our own way, and let us remember that it's not like it's all gonna be about holding hands under the rainbow, as much as I would like to see that. Maybe every once in a while. But it does not have to be as conflicted, as aggressive, as dogmatically split, divided, dichotomized. We're meant to have differences. We're meant to live together in certain ways. Some people are meant to be more different than others. Some people are meant to be more alike than others. Some people have imaginations and ideas that will lead them to create things that will change the world. Other people will raise children or work on a farm with their heart and soul to make food for people. If you had a choice between working, let's say with your hands, or doing something outside even, cooking, or I don't know, involving yourself as a person in any other way than sitting in front of a computer and typing things that really don't mean anything to your personal life whatsoever, in a small cubicle box, little gray box, the hum and the buzz of fluorescence and electronics. How many people would choose the cubicle sheep life over? I shouldn't say that. I might be being a dick. I'm not trying to be. Okay, so let me backtrack. We're all sheep in some way. Sheep are beautiful. We're all humans. We're all everything. Some more than others, and it's okay. The fact is I'm pointing my finger at myself as well, and that's one of the reasons that I'm going to be stepping away and trying to work on myself, because it's necessary. It starts with an individual. The individual, each of us. And yes, maybe some would. Maybe some, it's hard to say genetically would, because it's such a new phenomenon, but perhaps but if there was less of a need, if we had a different way of handling our businesses, our bureaucracies, our population, our resources, our food services, our art, our science, etc., our spirituality, a much more integrated concept of our life as a painting or several paintings or works of art, let's say, as opposed to just a means to an end or an eat each other attitude towards how we have to be. We are the best and worst of nature, and I think that we can use the best to make the best out of the worst. We don't have to be as bad. It's just hard. Take a lot of change and getting rid of these poisons somehow. See, a lot of people, and I've been listening to these different socio-political things lately, talks and podcasts or whatnot. I think I'm switching over. I think I got it. And I think I'm going to switch to Ram Dass and mantras and chanting music and stuff. Anyways, in these different podcasts and stuff, some of the smartest people in the world, well, take it for what you will, some recognize they're intellectuals. Take that for what you will, too, really. I think we would both probably get more sitting and listening to the wise Amazonian shaman as far as what we really need. Anyways, listening to these types of conversations and talks about socio-political issues and that constant seeming friction, and maybe there's positive and negative, light, dark, all these different things in nature. There's also one in many things, so it's not like there's just a necessary division in things. It's largely on perspective. So rather than viewing things from the viewpoint of our limitations, the limitations of the past, certain social ideals, and the worst of us. Why can we not look to truly find the best of all the viewpoints? To work, to realize that there is a value in every stroke in a painting, although not every stroke is going to be the boldest and some will be covered by other strokes. Everyone has some value. And rather than viewing the way that we socialize, and I think that one of the biggest issues that we have to look at is the fact I don't think any human being in a system like this, if we recognize ourselves in any way, shape, or form as human beings, as something together, as a unit somehow, and in no way we are. Organs are organs, even though they're the whole body at the same time. I think one of the biggest things is there's absolutely no reason that any of us need to starve. Nobody needs to not have food. Now, I'm not talking about egalitarian. That's the thing. I hear all these words and these, catchphrases, ideologies, whatever. And these conversations by very smart people. From at least one perspective of what smart means. Coming from one very humble, very small perspective in my own voice, my own interpretation of this. But nonetheless, what I continue to not see is just talking about what it is that we really want and what we can do to make it happen. Because it's always ideal talks. It's always about, well, we need equality for this or this and that. And it's no, well, let's ask each other what we want and how we might go about getting it. And let's realize that nobody needs to starve. Nobody needs to hoard everything and be ludicrously wealthy and powerful. It doesn't make any sense to just hand everything out equal to everybody for every reason, and give everybody some equal everything, because that's not fair to people. That's not fair to evolution. That's not fair to what life is all about. But what we can have is a greater systems of compassion. Why do we have compassion if it's not used for our benefit, for our evolution? Cell doesn't just take all the food in an organ and let all the other cells die. Or whatever. But not all cells serve the same function. Not they don't have the same lifespan. Or the same purpose. People need to find their purpose. They need to be given opportunities to find their purpose. We need to be given opportunities as human beings to find a purpose beyond the things we have created. We have a responsibility as human beings to ourselves and our planet to put a paramount attention into nature, into serving in nature and propelling it back into our lives, while understanding that there will be areas there will still be cities. And this, we can change things, though. We can change things. We need to be part of nature. It makes no sense that we're not. Think of all the jobs that can be created. Places of opportunity if we always have something to do in nature. I think that instead of looking at the systems that have failed, looking at the writers of the past, the ideologies, and trying to find what might work in that. Let's look at things like the elves. I mean, I'm being dead ass serious here. Look at Elrond. Look at how the elves live. Okay, look at that particular level of organization and awareness, and think, why can't we strive to live that way? That's not saying, well, that's not saying I'm Marxist or what's the opposite of Marxist, fascist or whatever. None of those words matter. It's bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit. What matters is the way we connect to nature, ourselves, the larger essence of consciousness in the universe. We can be with infinity, and it makes no sense, none, that we allow each other to starve and die and cut each other's throats and treat each other like shit and devolve our consciousness and our connection to that beautiful essence of reality, of being, of everything. It's why we are here, and it's fucked up. Excuse me, I'm a little bit passionate. It's golly gosh darn candied up that, yeah, because candy's really good. Anyways, now I'm just getting crazy. Point. Because it's not really crazy. It's not crazy. If we shed ourselves of all of these layers, in some cases of words, of logic, for a deeper logic. I'm not saying shed logic. I'm saying shedding layers of logic to find core logic that radiates into something beyond equational logic. It's the logic of energy. It's something that works as a vibration that actually makes change, that actually puts forward a path which way we may live in the greater sense of harmony and connectedness. I mean, you can't erase our competitiveness. You can't erase our sexuality. You can't erase our wants for attention, our striving to be something in the world, whatever that is, however big or small that world is. They have a place and purpose. But we can work to understand it, to have a true freedom that does not. Now, the thing about freedom, I think this is where, like, when people say freedom isn't free and there's responsibility behind it. I think the thing about freedom is that you have to live and be in such a way that allows other people to be free. Which really means checking yourself on what you say to people, how you treat people, what you can do. If you're price gouging somebody in a shop, you are not allowing them to be free. If you are forcing products that only a tiny group of people decided, well, actually the world decides because we buy them, but a tiny group of people decide that this is what we're going to mandate for the betterment of our own pockets. be bombarded with media that makes us want to buy things, consume things in a certain way, brainwash or corrupt us. We need to be free to have occupations that mean something and to offer our services to the world without obstructing other people's freedoms to live their lives without what we have to offer if they wish. If we, for some reason, took paint away, I'm a painter, obviously. Maybe not obviously. I shouldn't say that. That's not a very nice thing to say, because if it's not obvious to someone, then you're dissing them. See, there's a lot of the things I need to be able to be free. Digress for a second. Be able to be free in speech, okay? And if everybody has free speech, and we allow each other to have free speech, we are going to be, essentially, we will be making choices. If we take on the responsibility of freedom, then we will make the choices that won't admonish other people's freedoms. We might ask questions about things. We will have disagreements. Some people may use phrases or ideas that other people don't like. Maybe they're from a different time or whatever. And we have the freedom to express how we feel if somebody says something that we don't like. We don't have the freedom to cut off the limbs and genitals of the person who might not understand some contemporary thinking. That's not freedom. That's fascism. See, Stalin and Hitler were both essentially fascists. They were totalitarian. You call it fascism, you call it communism, whatever. It all becomes about control. And if we're going to have real freedom, we cannot have control over media, over words, over each other. We cannot. So we need to learn how to work freely within each other as conscious entities. This is not like we can't just look at nature and genetics and other things in life as our only paradigm, as our only example. Because nature doesn't have us that we see. Nature doesn't have the consciousness of choice. Our art, our music. It has music, it has art, but it doesn't have it like this. It's different. We have to understand that this is a different thing. We have to connect more with nature so that we can better understand our human nature. It is different. But it's connected, obviously. There I go saying obviously again, but it is connected. Why I always advocate for an artful living and an artful life. Because art accepts everything. Art uses light and dark. Sometimes art is almost, is going splash of paint, violent, or is chipping away a piece of wood or a rock to make a sculpture somehow a violent act. I don't know. It might be one of those energies that's doing something. It's not aggressive, but there's an exertion or a force, tempered sometimes. It's one of those good ways that we use that energy. But the artful life, harmony of contrasts. composition of serendipity. And the respect, and a whole respect. Or is it an inclusive? I don't like that. Let's just say for now, a whole respect of each individual stroke in the painting, and whatever that stroke does to bring about the greater strength of the entire piece. The Art for Life, Art for Truth. This is something that needs to be talked about and thought about. One of the things that when I'm listening to these intellectuals and these people talk about jobs and politics and gender issues and whatever the else, I never hear a lot about love, and I hear nothing about art. Nothing. And that's a shame. That's a shame. Because we are human nature. We are human, and part of human nature is art making. And yes, it comes from nature. We have examples. There's whales, and there's different birds that do things that are very much like art, if not art. Coming from that, our larger energy. But humans, art is one of the paramount elements of human nature. And we ignore it when we're talking about politics. We ignore it when we're talking about how we build our businesses and our social structures and all of this stuff. We ignore its power, its gravity, its guiding light towards a harmony, towards peace that works, towards a life that works. Ignore it, and yet everywhere it's art. Everywhere we look at our history, we look at our present, somehow, some way, shape, or form, art is there, and it's a part of things, but it's not a part of the bigger conversations of what we are, what we do. How many people would have something more to do in their lives, a purpose, if we had more incorporation of art into our lives? Not everyone's going to be Picasso. Not everybody can be. And the Picassos of the world, this is just an example, or the Hilma Clints, need to be them. They need to be allowed to be. They need to be allowed to be able to explore and serve their studies to humanity in the form of their art making, the way scientists do. They need to be able to have that same freedom and opportunity. But for all the people who are otherwise doing things that are perhaps unconstructive, poisonous, I love you, but if you spend 8 to 10 hours a day in front of the television eating McDonald's and bonbons, you're not living a healthy life, and it's hurting all of us. I want to help you. You have the freedom to make that choice, but you also have the freedom to see that you're being poisoned and corrupted. Every one of us is poisoned and corrupted, and we all have to come to terms to opening our eyes in each of our individual ways. There will be people along the path that I meet, I am sure, that will open my eyes further. We need to take these things less personal, if that makes any sense, because it's so personal. We need to realize that all of the strokes matter in a painting. And if the strokes aren't working, or if they're non-harmonious, uncongruitive, basically not giving a shit about the larger painting as a whole, then the whole painting fails, the whole artwork fails. So it's very important, I think, that we can look at the larger picture and work as individuals to help fix ourselves and in some way, shape, or form help to inform others so that they may make the choices to be less poisoned themselves, so that the whole painting can work. It's a self-painting painting, it would seem. But there's something working through us. And if we can realize that as well, then we can make a larger sense of things. All along the way, there will be attempts at dominance. There will be attempts at control, attempts at destruction. I believe that there's a force, there's a gravity that would have nothing be, that would just suck everything into non-existence. And I think that there's a lot of that in our lives and souls. We see it in the way we treat each other, and the fact that we've allowed our governments to become what they've become, not just now, but over the millennia. Very little exception that we're more largely aware of. There's a lot of our history that's erased. Much, much older than what we consider ancient history. That might be a heck of a lot better than what we think our history is. So, I'm going to wrap this up. We can make this work. But we need to use our imaginations. Because there are forces, like the nothing. I have to call it the nothing. Thank you, never-ending story. Those gravities, or the light of everything, where everything somehow exists and works. And then ultimately we're a part of that. Nirvana, the light, whatever, that's real as well. And ultimately, they're both the same, but it's how we get there that matters. Is it everything? Is it the great light that we are part of, or is it the nothing? Is it that which would destroy and just have nothing be at all? One thing that I am sure of is that the more that we learn to work with nature, the earth, ourselves, with art, and the more that we make decisions to take certain poisons out of our lives and focus on things that will bring out the best of what we want to be, we will make progress. It happens in individuals, it happens in little communities and microcosms and all around the world. This isn't just a white American corporate type of world. You know, there are beautiful things happening while everything's kind of affected by it because it's poisoned everything. But this is a beautiful, large, vast, varied world. And I think that some of these principles of growth do apply to everybody, and art do apply to everybody. I think that we'll realize eventually that even the idea of culture will become a part of our history. Because it's not about culture, which ends up being in a way divisive, because it ends up having certain rules. Otherwise, what's the distinction between one culture or another? However, it will be about the integration of art and imagination into our larger sociological, into our larger societies, into our larger sociological perspective of life. I mean, isn't that essentially what culture is? Not everybody needs to have the same beliefs. That's the other thing. Not everybody can have the same connections to art. Maybe other people's history and whatnot, and where we come from and all that, has something to do with it. But it does not mean that it can't be somehow worked in with the idea of freedom. Not melded, not forced. There will be natural people will naturally gravitate towards the things that interest them or that draw them. There does not need to be division or dichotomy or, us against them about it. None. We can work to make that happen. Anyways, we can work to greater freedom. It's something to think about. If you have thoughts about you or your life or whatnot that bother you, well, maybe they mean something. Maybe it means it's time for some kind of a change. It can happen to everybody. I think it does, whether we listen to it or not. We're all beautiful. We all can be. We're all part of love. We can all grow. We can all evolve and be better. Always. So let's continue to help each other as best we can. These times show it more than ever. It is necessary. It's necessary if we're going to save ourselves, but it's also necessary if each individual right now is going to save him or herself, theirselves. Tomorrow will be Feel Free Friday, which means who knows what I'll feel like doing, but I'll feel free to do it. In the meantime, thank you all once again. Good luck with whatever it is you're doing.